Before we begin, please note that the information provided in this video is for educational and informational purposes only. I am not a licensed financial advisor or insurance agent. This presentation is not a substitute for professional advice. Always consult with a qualified professional before making any financial decisions. Your individual circumstances are unique, and the strategies discussed may not be suitable for your situation. Sarah thought she hit the jackpot. A car insurance quote that was $150 a month cheaper than her old policy. $150. That's a nice dinner out, a few tanks of gas, a serious dent in her cell phone bill. And the reviews? They were glowing. Page after page of 5-star ratings. So easy to sign up, one said. Best customer service, cheered another. Saved so much money. Felt like a no-brainer. She clicked buy, saved her new insurance card to her phone, and felt that little thrill of being a smart, savvy consumer. Fast forward 6 months. A rainy Tuesday morning, a slick patch of road, and the sickening crunch of metal. A fender bender. No one was hurt, thank God, but her car was definitely not drivable. Annoying, but hey, that's what insurance is for, right? She pulled up that shiny new app on her phone, filed her claim and waited. And waited. And waited. Her calls went to an endless phone tree. Her emails got automated replies. When she finally reached a human, they were in a call center halfway across the world, reading from a script, promising a call back from an adjuster that never came. The easy sign-up process and the great customer service she read about in the reviews? They had vanished. Poof. Gone. Replaced by a bureaucratic nightmare. The tow yard fees were piling up. The rental car costs were maxing out her credit card. That $150 a month she was saving? It was a drop in the ocean compared to the thousands of dollars and the weeks of stress this 5-star company was now costing her. Sarah's story isn't a rare one. In fact, it's a trap that millions of Americans fall into every single year. You do your homework, you shop around, you read the reviews, and you still get burned. Why? Because you're being lied to. Not just by the fake, paid-for reviews, but by the real ones too. You're being shown a carefully curated fantasy, a highlight reel of the easy part, the sign-up, while the brutal reality of the hard part, the claim, is buried 6 pages deep. You're looking for a safety net, but what you're really buying is a sales pitch. And the difference between the two can cost you your car, your savings, and your sanity. But what if you could see through the matrix? What if you had a set of X-ray glasses that could instantly tell you which reviews are real, which are fake, and most importantly, what the real reviews are not telling you? What if you could, in less than 5 minutes, look at any insurance company's review page and know with absolute certainty whether they will have your back when things go wrong? That is exactly what I am going to give you in this video. We are not going to talk about deductibles or coverage limits. There are a million videos for that. Today we are going on a deep dive into the dark arts of online reviews. I'm going to arm you with 5 critical red flags, the subtle clues and hidden patterns that 99% of people miss. These are the red flags that separate the companies that just want to take your money from the companies that will actually be there to pick up the pieces. Mastering this skill will save you more money and prevent more headaches than haggling over a few dollars on your premium ever will. This is the single most important and most overlooked part of buying car insurance. So let's get into it. The very first red flag, the one that's easiest to spot but also the most seductive, is what I call the tsunami of vague 5-star praise. You know exactly what this looks like. You go to a review site and you see a wall of bright, shiny 5-star ratings. It feels reassuring, right? Like social proof. But scroll through them. Read the actual text. Great service. Easy to use. Love this company. Got a great rate. Notice a pattern? They are incredibly short. They are overwhelmingly positive. And they are completely, utterly, uselessly vague. These reviews all talk about one thing and one thing only. The dating phase of the relationship. The sign-up process. The initial quote. The honeymoon period. Think about it. When does an insurance company ask you for a review? Is it 6 months after you filed a complicated claim involving 3 other drivers and a hospital visit? Or is it 30 seconds after you've given them your credit card number and they've successfully sold you a policy? It's almost always the latter. They strike while the iron is hot, while you're feeling good about the money you think you're saving. They send you an automated email or a pop-up that says, "How was your experience?" And of course, your experience was great. It was fast. It was easy. You clicked a few buttons and got a lower number. So you give them 5 stars and write "super easy." And you move on with your day. You have just contributed to the problem. You've left a 5-star review for a company whose actual product you have never used. The product isn't the app. The product isn't the website. The product is the claims process. That's what you pay for. That's the only thing that matters. And a review that doesn't talk about the claims process is like a movie review from someone who only watched the opening credits. It's meaningless. Worse than meaningless, it's deceptive. A flood of these shallow, happy-go-lucky reviews creates a powerful illusion. It buries the real substantive reviews, the ones from people like Sarah who have actually been through a crisis and have something important to say. The 1-star review from the guy whose claim was unfairly denied gets drowned out by 100 5-star reviews from people who just like the color of the company's logo. So what do? You become a detective. You ignore the star rating at the top of the page. That number is a vanity metric, designed to make you feel comfortable. It's marketing. Instead, you put on your filter. You actively hunt for the details. Scroll past the empty praise. Look for reviews that tell a story. Look for length. Look for specifics. A good review, even a positive one, has texture. Sounds like a real human. It might say something like, "I had to file a claim after a hailstorm damaged my windshield. I was worried it would be a hassle, but I used the app to submit photos and my adjuster Maria called me back within 2 hours. She explained my glass coverage clearly and had an appointment set up with a repair shop for the next day. The process was much smoother than I expected." See the difference? Names, timelines, specific events, details. That review has weight. It has value. It's about the actual product. Conversely, a valuable negative review isn't just someone screaming, "This company sucks." A valuable negative review gives you the why. I was rear-ended, and the other driver was clearly at fault with a police report to prove it. My company initially told me to file through the other driver's insurance. When their insurance was unresponsive for 2 weeks, I tried to use my own collision coverage, but my adjuster Mark was impossible to reach. It took 3 days of calling to get a response, and they've been dragging their feet on approving the body shop estimates for a month now. I'm paying for a rental out of pocket and I feel completely abandoned. That's gold. That's the information you need. That review tells you about their communication process, their claims philosophy, and how they treat you when you're vulnerable. The tsunami of great rate reviews tells you nothing. So your first mission when you land on a review page is to ignore the noise and hunt for the signal. Filter for 1-star, 2-star, and 3-star reviews first. That's where the truth usually lives. Read the stories. Look for patterns in the complaints. Is everyone complaining about the same thing? Slow adjusters? Unfair fault decisions? Lowball repair estimates? That's a massive red flag. Then, read the 5-star reviews and apply the same critical lens. Are there any 5-star reviews that actually talk about a positive claims experience? If a company has thousands of reviews and you can only find a handful that praise the claims process, you should be very, very suspicious. This brings us to our second giant, flashing neon red flag. Vague and generic praise. You've seen these a million times. They are the empty calories of the review world. 5 stars. The comment, "Great company," or "Excellent service," or my personal favorite, "Easy to use." What does that even mean? Was the website font easy to read? Did the app not crash on your phone? These are not reviews of an insurance company. These are reviews of a tech interface. Think about it. Praising an insurance company for having a slick app or a fast website is like praising a surgeon for having a clean waiting room. It's nice, I guess, but it tells you absolutely nothing about their skill when you're actually on the operating table. The operating table for an insurance company is the claims process. Everything else, the friendly sales agent, the easy sign-up, the monthly bill, that's just the waiting room. Let's dig into the psychology of this. Why are there so many of these reviews? Often, it's because the company aggressively prompts for a review at the best possible moment for them, and the worst possible moment for you as a researcher. They don't ask you for a review a month after they denied your claim. They ask you for a review 30 seconds after you've successfully signed up and saved $15 a month. At that moment, you're experiencing a little dopamine hit. You feel smart. You feel like you got a deal. The process was painless. So when that little pop-up appears, how did we do? You're predisposed to be positive. Slap on 5 stars, type super easy, and move on with your day. You haven't actually tested the product. You haven't had an accident. You haven't had your car stolen. You haven't had a tree fall on your garage. You've only experienced the sales pitch. And let's be honest, every company on earth has perfected their sales pitch. Reviewing an insurance policy based on the sign-up process is like reviewing a parachute based on how neatly it fits into its backpack. It's comfortable, it looks good. The straps are easy to adjust. Great. 5 stars. But the only review that matters is from the person who had to pull the ripcord at 10,000 feet. Did it open? Did it deploy smoothly? Did it save your life? So when you're scrolling through reviews, become a detective. Look for specifics. A genuinely helpful 5-star review doesn't say great service. It says something like, I was rear-ended on a Tuesday morning and I was stressed out. I called their claims line and spoke to a representative named Brenda. She was calm, walked me through the process and had a tow truck dispatched within 30 minutes. The adjuster, Tom, called me that same afternoon. He was clear about the next steps. My rental car was approved by the next day, and I had a check for the repairs in under 2 weeks. They turned a horrible experience into a manageable one. See the difference? That review has names. It has a timeline. It has specific actions. It describes the claims process. It's a review of the parachute opening, not just how it felt on your back. These are the reviews you should hunt for. They are diamonds in a sea of glass. If you can't find them, you're looking at a company that has mastered the art of the sale, but has no interest in mastering the art of the promise. This leads us directly into our third, and possibly most seductive red flag: reviews that are laser-focused on one thing and one thing only: price. Cheapest insurance I could find. 5 stars. Saved me $500 a year compared to my old company. 5 stars. Got a great rate. 5 stars. Now look, I get it. Nobody wants to pay more for car insurance. It feels like you're just throwing money away every month for something you hope you'll never need. So when a company comes along and offers you the same looking product for a fraction of the cost, it feels like a no-brainer. It's the siren song of the insurance industry, and it leads countless drivers straight onto the rocks. Here's the brutal truth the bargain basement insurance companies will never tell you. In a regulated industry like insurance, you almost always get what you pay for. There is no magic formula. They aren't just more efficient. They don't have a secret algorithm that allows them to offer the same protection for less money. The only way to significantly undercut the competition on price is to do one of 3 things. 1. They cherry-pick only the most perfect drivers, people with flawless records, who live in low-risk zip codes and drive boring, safe cars. If you're not in that tiny group, you won't get the advertised rate anyway. 2. They play games with the pricing itself. This is the classic introductory rate or bait and switch. They lure you in with an unbelievably low price for the first 6 months. You sign up, you leave them a 5-star review about the great price, and you feel fantastic. Then, 6 months later, your renewal comes in the mail, and your premium has mysteriously shot up by 30, 40, or even 50%. They bank on the fact that most people are too busy to go through the hassle of shopping for insurance all over again, so you just sigh and pay it. The 5-star review they got from you, however, stays there forever, luring in the next victim. And number 3, the most dangerous one, they slash the coverage to the bone. That super low premium isn't for a good policy. It's for a policy that's more like a piece of Swiss cheese full of holes. They might be selling you the absolute state minimum liability limits. So, if you live in a state where the minimum for property damage is, say, $15,000, and you get into an accident where you total someone's brand new $50,000 SUV, guess who's on the hook for the other $35,000? You are. They'll sue you. They'll garnish your wages. Your cheap insurance policy just became the most expensive financial mistake of your life. These cheap policies often have no rental car reimbursement, no towing or roadside assistance. They might have a sky-high deductible that you can't afford to pay out of pocket. The reviews that scream about the low price never mention this. The person writing that review hasn't had to use the policy yet. They're just celebrating the discount, completely unaware that they've purchased a ticket to financial ruin. Think of it this way. If you saw 2 hospitals, and one offered to do heart surgery for $10,000, and the other offered to do it for $500, would you automatically choose the cheaper one? Of course not. You'd be incredibly suspicious. You'd want to know why it's so cheap. Are the surgeons licensed? Do they wash their hands? Are they using equipment from 1982? You would demand to know what corners are being cut to reach that price. You must apply that same logic to your insurance. It is financial surgery. It's there to protect you from catastrophic loss. When you see a review that says, best price around, your immediate follow-up question should be, and at what cost? What are you giving up for that lower price? Is it the quality of the coverage? The integrity of the claims service? The financial stability of the company itself? The price-focused reviews are a trap because they appeal to our desire for a simple, easy win. But insurance is neither simple nor easy. It's a complex legal contract, and its true value is invisible until the absolute worst day of your life. Don't let a 5-star review about saving a few bucks a month blind you to the fact that you might be buying a policy that won't be there for you when you actually need it. The people who have been through a nightmare claims process with one of these cheap companies would gladly pay double to have had a policy that actually worked. But by then, of course, it's too late. Their story is often buried in a sea of 1-star reviews that you might have missed, while being dazzled by all the 5-star ratings talking about the great price. And that brings me to an even more deceptive, more calculated tactic that companies use to manipulate their scores. It's called review gating. And it's one of the most brilliant and frankly dishonest ways for a company to build a nearly perfect online reputation without actually earning it. Think of it like this. Imagine you're the bouncer at the hottest nightclub in town, but your job isn't to keep trouble out. It's to control who gets to talk to the club's official reviewer, who's standing by the bar. When a group comes out of the club, you stop them. Hey, how was your night? If they say, it was amazing, best DJ ever. You smile, open a velvet rope and say, fantastic. The reviewer is right over there. Please go tell them all about it. But if the next group comes out scowling, saying, the drinks were watered down and we got overcharged, you just nod sympathetically and say, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Please fill out this private comment card, and a manager will be in touch. You see what happens? The official reviewer only ever hears from the ecstatic guests. The club's public rating soars to 5 stars, while all the legitimate complaints get quietly funneled into a back office, never to see the light of day. That, in a nutshell, is review gating. And in the insurance world, it's an art form. Let me tell you about a woman named Jessica. Jessica was meticulous. When her old auto insurance policy was up for renewal, she decided to shop around. She spent a whole weekend huddled over her laptop, comparing quotes, and more importantly, reading reviews. One company, let's call them SwiftCover, kept popping up. They had a 4.8-star rating on a major review platform. Thousands of reviews. Jessica was impressed. She scrolled through them. Easiest sign-up ever, one said. Got my policy in 5 minutes and saved $40 a month, said another. Customer service was so friendly and helpful when I was getting my quote. It was a sea of positivity. She saw a few 1-star reviews, but they were buried, and she figured, hey, no company is perfect. So she signed up. The process was, just as the reviews said, incredibly smooth. A week later, she got an automated email from SwiftCover. On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend us to a friend? Jessica thought about the easy sign-up and the money she saved. She clicked 10. The moment she did, the page changed. A new message popped up. We're so glad you had a great experience. Would you be willing to share your feedback on major review site to help others? A convenient link was provided. Jessica, feeling good about her decision, clicked the link and left a glowing 5-star review, adding to the chorus of praise. For 8 months, everything was perfect. The automatic payments came out of her account, and she barely thought about it. Then came the hailstorm. It was one of those freak weather events that came out of nowhere. Her car, parked on the street, looked like it had been attacked with 1,000 ball-peen hammers. It was devastating. But Jessica thought, okay, this is why I have insurance. This is what I pay for. She took a deep breath and called the number on her SwiftCover insurance card. And that's when she stepped through the looking glass. The friendly, efficient company she had signed up with vanished. The person on the other end of the line was cold, bureaucratic, and seemed to be reading from a script designed to minimize the company's responsibility. They told her to get an estimate from one of their approved body shops. The estimate came back at over $9,000. When she submitted it to SwiftCover, they balked. They sent their own adjuster, who spent 10 minutes looking at the car and came back with an offer of $4,000, claiming half the dents were pre-existing wear and tear. This was absurd. Her car was pristine before the storm. Jessica was furious. She argued, she sent photos, she escalated to a supervisor. Every step was a battle. It was a full-time job of being on hold, sending emails that went unanswered, and dealing with adjusters who treated her like a criminal trying to scam them. After 2 months of fighting, exhausted and defeated, she finally accepted a lowball offer of $5,000 because she just couldn't deal with the stress anymore. She had to pay the rest out of pocket. Seething with anger, she remembered that 5-star review she had left. She wanted to go back and change it to 1 star, to warn people about the nightmare she'd been through. She logged onto the review site and found her original review. As she was about to edit it, she had a thought. She clicked on the filter and sorted the reviews from lowest rating to highest. Her heart sank. It was like reading her own diary from the past 2 months. Page after page of stories identical to hers. People who had a great sign-up, and then an accident, a hailstorm, a fender bender. And their worlds fell apart. The same complaints over and over. Unresponsive adjusters, lowball offers, endless delays. It was all there. And then she realized the horrifying truth. SwiftCover hadn't asked these people to leave a review. They had only asked her, back when she was a happy new customer who had only experienced the easy sales process. Her positive review wasn't a reflection of the insurance product. It was a reflection of the company's marketing funnel. She and thousands of others had been gated. Their initial happiness was leveraged to build a wall of fake praise that hid a rotting foundation of terrible service. This is our red flag number 2. An overwhelmingly positive score based almost entirely on the sign-up process. These companies have perfected the art of the internal survey. They send you that "how did we do?" email. If you rate them highly, you are automatically shunted to a public review site like Trustpilot or Google. If you rate them poorly, you are directed to an internal feedback form. The company gets to hear your complaint, which makes them look like they care, but your negative opinion is captured and contained. It never makes it to the public square. It's a closed loop designed to manufacture a high score. So how do you, the savvy consumer, see through this charade? First, you have to become a review detective. Never ever trust the overall star rating. Your first move should always be to ignore the 5-star reviews and go straight to the 1- and 2-star reviews. Read at least 20 of them. Are you seeing a pattern? Is everyone complaining about the same thing? If you see 10 different people who have never met each other all describing the exact same frustrating claims process, you're not looking at isolated incidents. You're looking at company policy. Second, use the search bar within the reviews. Every major review platform has one. Don't just scroll. Search. Type in the words that actually matter. Words like claim, accident, adjuster, settlement, totaled, payout, denied. This is like using a cheat code. It cuts through all the noise about easy sign-up and great app and takes you directly to the moments of truth, the points where the company was actually tested. The results of that search will tell you more than a 4.8-star rating ever could. And third, pay attention to the timing and substance of the reviews. Look at the 5-star reviews. Do a lot of them say things like, "just signed up," or "been with them for a week and it's great"? That is a massive red flag. A review from someone who has never filed a claim is completely worthless. It's like reviewing a parachute before you've had to jump out of the plane. You're looking for reviews from long-term customers, people who mention they've been with the company for 3 years, or "since my last car." And most importantly, you're looking for reviews from people who have actually used the product, people who have been in an accident and lived to tell the tale of the claims process. Their story, good or bad, is worth 100 reviews from brand new customers. By learning to spot the fingerprints of review gating, you can dismantle the fake reality the insurance company has spent so much money to build. You can see past the shiny 5-star facade and understand what really happens when things go wrong. But even when you do all that, even when you filter for the 1-star reviews and search for the keyword claim, you might still be getting manipulated. Because what if the reviews you're reading aren't even from real customers? What if there's an entire underground economy dedicated to creating fake praise and burying real complaints? That's where we're going next, into the shadowy world of astroturfing and the billion-dollar fake review industry. It's called astroturfing because, like that fake grass in a stadium, it's designed to look like a genuine grassroots movement, but it's completely artificial. It's a corporate PR strategy, a black hat marketing tactic where a company pays for an army of fake accounts, bots, or even real people in so-called click farms to post glowing 5-star reviews. The goal? To drown out negative feedback and create a false consensus of overwhelming customer satisfaction. It's not just a few disgruntled employees trying to help their boss. It's a global multi-billion-dollar industry. There are entire companies, operating from boiler rooms in countries around the world, whose sole business is to create and sell fake online reputations. For a few $100s, an insurance company can buy a package of 50 positive reviews, dripped out over a week to look natural. For a few thousand, they can launch a sustained campaign to bury a 1-star rating under a mountain of 5-star praise. And the scale is staggering. A study from the World Economic Forum estimated that fake reviews influence over $200 billion in online spending each year in the US alone. The Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, is constantly playing whack-a-mole, fining companies millions of dollars for deceptive practices. They once busted a company that was selling fake Amazon reviews for $13 apiece. Think about that. An entire marketplace exists for fabricating trust. So when you're looking at an insurance company with a near-perfect 4.9-star rating from 10,000 reviews, you have to ask yourself, how much of that is real? And how much was bought and paid for? This brings us to red flag number 2, the perfectly manicured lawn of fake reviews. And just like with actual AstroTurf, if you look closely enough, you can always see the seams. So how do you spot it? The first sign is generic, over-the-top praise. Fake reviews are often written from a template, and they lack specific, personal details. They use vague, emotionally charged words. Absolutely amazing service. The best insurance company ever. 5 stars, highly recommend. Real customers, even happy ones, tend to be more specific. A real 5-star review might say, I worked with an agent named Brenda after my fender bender, and she was incredibly patient, walking me through the paperwork for claim number 7-4B. The check arrived in 9 days, which was faster than I expected. See the difference? One is a generic compliment. The other is a story. It has names, details, a timeline. Feels human because it is. The fake review is a hollow echo. It's trying to sell you on an emotion, not an experience. The second thing to look for is suspicious timing. Let's say a company gets hit with a news story about denying claims, and suddenly their review page is flooded with a dozen 5-star reviews in 48 hours, all saying how great their claims process is. That's not a coincidence. That's damage control. Use online tools that can show you the history of a company's reviews. If you see long periods of inactivity followed by sudden, concentrated bursts of either positive or negative reviews, be skeptical. Real customer feedback tends to trickle in at a relatively steady pace. A sudden flood is often a sign of a coordinated campaign, either by the company itself or a competitor. Third, investigate the reviewer's profile. This is where the detective work gets interesting. Click on the name of the person who left the review. What else have they reviewed? A classic sign of a fake account is a profile with only one review ever written. The glowing 5-star one for the insurance company. Or you might see a profile that has reviewed 50 different products in the last month, from a brand of toothpaste in Germany to a car dealership in Texas to this insurance company in Ohio, all with 5 stars. Real people don't behave like that. Their review history is usually more focused and sporadic. Also, look at the language across their reviews. Does it sound like the same person? Or does it sound like a template has been used? Great product, a plus plus. Great service, a plus plus. Great experience, a plus plus. That's a bot or a click farm worker, not a genuine customer. Let's put this into a real-world context. Imagine a young driver, we'll call him Alex. He's buying his first car insurance policy. He's on a budget, so he's comparing quotes. He finds a company, SwiftCover, that's significantly cheaper than the big names. He's a little wary, so he checks their reviews. He's blown away. A 4.8-star rating. Thousands of reviews. He scrolls through them. SwiftCover saved me so much money. Easiest sign-up process ever. Fantastic customer service. Alex is sold. He signs up, saves $100 a month, and feels like a genius. 6 months later, a driver runs a red light and T-bones his car. The car is a wreck, but thankfully Alex is okay. He calls SwiftCover to file a claim, and the nightmare begins. The easy-to-reach customer service he read about is now an endless phone tree that always leads to a full voicemail box. When he finally gets a human on the line, they're dismissive and unhelpful. They demand obscure paperwork. They question every detail of the police report. Weeks turn into months. The rental car coverage he thought he had runs out. He's paying out of pocket just to get to work. The company he chose based on thousands of glowing reviews is now actively fighting him, trying to find any loophole to deny his legitimate claim. What Alex didn't do was look at the seams. He didn't notice that most of those 5-star reviews praised the low prices and the easy website, but were suspiciously quiet about the one thing that actually matters, the claims process. He didn't click on the reviewers' profiles to see they were all created in the same month and had no other review history. He didn't see the small cluster of hyper-detailed, furious 1-star reviews buried under the mountain of generic praise, real stories from real people just like him, who were now stuck in financial ruin. Alex was lured in by a perfectly manicured lawn of AstroTurf, and now he's fallen into a sinkhole. This is why this red flag is so critical. With car insurance, the product isn't the price you pay today. It's the promise they'll keep tomorrow. A fake review for a toaster means you're out $50. A fake review for an insurance company can cost you your car, your savings, your financial future. The AstroTurfers are preying on our trust, turning a tool designed for transparency into a weapon of deception. They are experts at making a company look good on the surface, praising the easy, low-stakes parts of the business. But they almost never talk about what happens when things go wrong, because the people writing the reviews have never actually been in an accident. They've never had to file a claim. They've never had to depend on that company to make them whole again. They were just paid $13 to copy and paste a script. So the next time you see that wall of 5-star reviews, don't just be impressed. Be suspicious. Be a detective. Read the details. Check the timing. Investigate the profiles. Look for the seams in the AstroTurf. Because finding a company that's good at taking your money is easy. Finding one that's good at paying it back when you need it most, that's the real challenge. But the deception doesn't just flow in one direction. We've been talking about fake positive reviews designed to make a bad company look good. But what about the opposite? What if the scathing 1-star review warning you away from a great company is just as fake as the 5-star review luring you towards a bad one? What if competitors are weaponizing reviews not to build themselves up but to tear everyone else down? That's the next level of this information war. And it's where we're headed next. Welcome to the shadows of the review economy. This isn't just about a few disgruntled employees or a company buying 5-star ratings anymore. This is coordinated strategic sabotage. Think of it less like a bad review and more like a digital cruise missile aimed directly at a competitor's reputation. Why would a company resort to this? Because it's brutally effective and shockingly cheap. A multi-million-dollar advertising campaign is designed to build trust over months, even years. A well-executed negative review campaign can destroy that trust in weeks, for a fraction of the cost. It's the dark side of market competition. Instead of building a better product, you simply convince the world your rival's product is a ticking time bomb. You don't have to win the race if you can slash the other guy's tires before he even leaves the pit stop. The playbook for this kind of attack is terrifyingly sophisticated. It's not just 100 reviews posted on a Tuesday at 2 p.m. The people who do this for a living, these black hat reputation firms, are smarter than that. They know that looks fake. Instead, they might use what's called a slow burn attack. They create hundreds, sometimes thousands, of aged, realistic-looking online profiles. These aren't brand new accounts. They might have a few old reviews for a local restaurant, a check-in at a national park, a profile picture that's a stock photo run through 3 different filters to make it untraceable. These are digital sleeper cells waiting to be activated. Then, over weeks or months, they begin to drip these 1-star reviews onto a target company's page. 1 on Monday, 2 on Friday, 1 the following Wednesday. It's designed to mimic the natural, random pattern of real customer feedback. Each review is a little different, but they all hammer home the same core damaging message. A message crafted in a boardroom to inflict maximum pain. Maybe the narrative is, they never pay out for water damage claims. Or, their roadside assistance leaves you stranded for hours. It doesn't have to be true. It just has to be repeated over and over by what appear to be dozens of different unrelated people. Soon, that lie becomes the perceived truth. It becomes the first thing you see when you Google their name. The attack is complete. The competitor's reputation is in tatters, and they might never even know who fired the shot. This brings us to our third major red flag, and it's one you have to become a detective to spot. We'll call it the echo chamber effect. This is the digital footprint left behind by a coordinated negative attack. It's the evidence that what you're seeing isn't a chorus of unhappy customers, but a single voice with 1,000 puppets. The first and most obvious symptom is unnatural repetition. I don't just mean people complaining about the same problem. If an insurer's app is genuinely buggy, lots of real people will complain about the app. I'm talking about something far more specific: identical or near-identical phrasing. When you read a review that says, "The claims process was an absolute bureaucratic nightmare," you think, "Wow, that sounds bad." When you read a second review a week later that says, "Dealing with them was a bureaucratic nightmare," you might think it's a coincidence. But when you find 5, 10, 20 reviews all posted over a 2-month period, all using that exact slightly unusual phrase, bureaucratic nightmare, the alarm bells should be screaming. Real people describe their experiences with unique language, colored by their own personality and frustration. Robots and paid trolls work from a script. They use the same keywords and phrases because they've been instructed to. They create an echo, not a conversation. The second symptom is what I call a timeline anomaly. Most companies have a relatively steady flow of reviews. A few good ones, a few bad ones, a lot in the middle. It's a gentle rolling wave. A review bomb, even a slow burn one, creates a different pattern. It creates a sudden spike in negativity that doesn't correspond to any real-world event. Go to the company's review page and sort by newest. Scroll back and back and back. Are you seeing a healthy mix? Now look at the last 3 months. Do you see a sudden dramatic shift where nearly every review is a one-star rant? Did the company suddenly change its entire business model overnight? Did every single one of its employees suddenly become terrible at their job in the same week? It's possible if there was a major public catastrophe or a hugely unpopular policy change. But if there's no corresponding news, no public outcry, just a silent, steady stream of venom appearing out of nowhere, you're likely looking at the digital fallout of a planned attack. The third, and perhaps most telling symptom, is the vague villain. Real angry customers are almost always specific. Their anger is rooted in details. They'll say, "I spoke to John on Tuesday at 3 p.m., and he refused to look up my policy number, reference number 1-4-5. They'll say, "My 2022 Honda Civic was towed to the shop on Elm Street, and the adjuster Maria lowballed the repair estimate by $1,000. There are names, dates, locations, specifics. Feels real because it is. Fake negative reviews, on the other hand, are masters of the vague complaint. They're all emotion and no evidence. The customer service is terrible. How? They don't care about their clients. Why do you say that? The claims process is a joke. What part of it? These reviews are intentionally shallow. They don't provide details because no details exist. The event never happened. The goal isn't to describe a real experience. It's to plant a negative feeling, distrust, anger, fear, in the mind of a potential customer. It's a ghost story designed to be scary but falling apart the moment you shine a light on it and ask for the facts. And finally, there's the profile of the reviewer themselves. The one-hit wonder. This is your final confirmation. Click on the name of the person leaving that scathing one-star review. What else have they done? In a huge number of these cases, their profile is a digital ghost town. They have one review for this one insurance company. Their account was created the same day they left the review. They have no profile picture, a generic name like John S. or Jane D. and no other activity whatsoever. This person doesn't exist. They were willed into being for a single purpose, to post that one negative review and then vanish back into the ether. When you see one of these, you might dismiss it. When you see 10, 20, or 50 of them all fitting the same pattern, you know you're not looking at a customer base. You're looking at an army. So imagine this scenario. A smaller, innovative insurance company we'll call Spark Auto is starting to make waves. They have a great app, fair pricing, and their customer base is growing fast, mostly through word of mouth and glowing reviews. A massive legacy insurer, Titan National, sees this and gets nervous. Spark is eating into their market share. So Titan's marketing department quietly hires a reputation management firm that specializes in competitive SEO. That's the clean corporate term for it. The firm creates 500 profiles. They craft a simple, poisonous narrative. Spark Auto's app tracks your location and sells your personal data. Over the next 3 months, they deploy their digital sleeper cells. The reviews start trickling in. Don't use them, their app is spyware. I was shocked to find out they sold my information. Total violation of privacy. 1 star. Unsafe app. Avoid at all costs. None of the reviews offer proof. They all use similar keywords like spyware, privacy, and sold my data. The reviewer profiles are all ghosts. But for the average person shopping for insurance, the damage is done. They see Spark Auto's rating has dropped from a 4.9 to a 3.2. They read the first few reviews and see the scary warnings about data privacy. They don't dig deeper. They don't check the timelines or the profiles. They just get scared and click away, right into the waiting arms of an established brand like Titan National. The war was fought and won in a review section, and the victim never even knew they were in a fight. This is the world we live in. You can no longer afford to be a passive consumer of information. You have to be a critic, a skeptic, a detective. You have to look for the patterns, the echoes, the ghosts in the machine. But here's the most difficult question of all. We've talked about fake positives and fake negatives. But what about the reviews that are 100% real? The person writing it is a real customer. Their story is true. Their anger is genuine. And yet their review can still be one of the most misleading things you'll ever read. What happens when a real story doesn't tell the real truth? That's where the most sophisticated trap of all is waiting for you. And it's the one we're going to dismantle next. This brings us to red flag number 4. The anecdotal fallacy. This is, without a doubt, the most emotionally powerful, and therefore the most dangerous trap in the world of online reviews. It's when a story is 100% true, but it still leads you to a 100% wrong conclusion. Let me tell you about a woman named Jessica. Jessica had been with her car insurance company, let's call them Apex Auto, for 8 years. 8 years of clean driving, on-time payments, a perfect customer. One rainy Tuesday afternoon, she's sitting at a red light when a pickup truck, going way too fast for the conditions, slides on the wet pavement and smashes into her rear bumper. It's not a catastrophic accident, but it's significant. Her trunk is crumpled, the taillight is shattered, and her neck is sore. The police arrive, a report is filed, the other driver is clearly at fault. It's a textbook case. Jessica calls Apex Auto, her trusted insurer for nearly a decade. She expects a smooth process. Instead, she enters a 9-month labyrinth of pure misery. Her first claims adjuster is dismissive, implying the damage couldn't possibly be as bad as she claims. He offers a lowball estimate from a body shop an hour away, known for shoddy work. When she pushes back, he stops returning her calls. A week later, she's assigned a new adjuster. She has to explain the entire story again. This new adjuster questions the medical report for her whiplash, suggesting she's exaggerating her injuries to get a bigger payout. Apex Auto invokes a clause in her policy to demand an independent medical examination from a doctor they choose, who works almost exclusively for insurance companies. Weeks turn into months. They delay payment to the body shop she eventually chose, forcing her to pay out of pocket to get her car back. Every phone call is a battle. Every email is a carefully worded denial. She spends hours on hold, gets transferred to departments that don't exist, and is treated not like a loyal customer, but like a criminal trying to defraud them. After 9 months of fighting, she finally gets a settlement that barely covers her costs. She is emotionally exhausted, financially strained, and feels utterly betrayed. So she does what any of us would do. She goes online and writes a review. But it's not just a review, it's a novel. She details every phone call, every name, every date, every condescending remark, every broken promise. It's a 2,000-word masterpiece of meticulous, righteous fury. It's factual, it's passionate, and it is absolutely undeniably true. Now you're shopping for car insurance. You come across Jessica's review. You read her harrowing story. You feel her frustration. You feel her anger. And you think to yourself, wow, I'm never using Apex Auto. Thank you for the warning, Jessica. You've just fallen headfirst into the anecdotal fallacy. Here's the part that our brains don't want to accept. Jessica's story, while true for her, is almost certainly not the truth of the company. Let's look at the numbers. Apex Auto might handle, say, 2 million claims a year. Let's imagine their internal data shows that 99.5% of those claims are handled smoothly, meeting all their internal metrics for speed and customer satisfaction. That's 1,990,000 customers who had a perfectly acceptable, boring, and uneventful claims experience. They got their car fixed, they got their check, and they moved on with their lives. But that's 0.5%. That's 10,000 people. 10,000 people who, for a variety of reasons, a bad adjuster, a complex case, a bureaucratic error, had a nightmare experience just like Jessica's. Now ask yourself, who is more motivated to write a detailed review? The 1.99 million people for whom the system worked as expected, or the 10,000 Jessicas who feel betrayed and want to warn the world? The answer is obvious. The negative, extreme experiences are wildly overrepresented in online reviews. Our brains are not wired to think statistically. They're wired to react to stories. A vivid, emotional story about a single person's suffering carries far more weight in our decision-making than a dry statistic like a 99.5% satisfaction rate. This is a cognitive bias called the availability heuristic. We judge the likelihood of an event based on how easily we can recall an example of it. Jessica's detailed, terrifying story is incredibly easy to recall. Sticks in your mind. The millions of non-events, the safe and boring claims, are invisible. They don't exist. So you write off Apex Auto based on one powerful true story, and you might have just passed on a company that, for 99.5% of its customers, is actually excellent. You might end up choosing a company with slightly better-looking reviews, because they've only had a few Jessicas who bothered to write about their experience. And this trap works in reverse too. Let's say you read a review from a guy named Mark. Mark got into a fender bender, and his insurance company, Stellar Mutual, was unbelievable. They had an adjuster call him within 5 minutes. They approved his claim on the spot without even seeing the car. They sent him a voucher for the best body shop in town, gave him a free upgrade on his rental car, and mailed him a $50 gift card to apologize for his inconvenience. He writes a 5-star review, gushing that Stellar Mutual treats you like royalty. This is also an anecdote. It's an outlier. Maybe Mark got a brand new agent trying to make a good impression. Maybe it was a pilot program being tested in his area. Maybe it was just a fluke. If you sign up with Stellar Mutual expecting that royal treatment every time, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. The overwhelming majority of their customers likely get a standard average experience, not a bad one, but not the red carpet rollout Mark got. So how do you escape the anecdotal fallacy? You have to train yourself to become a story-resistant pattern seeker. When you read a review, consciously tell yourself, this is one person's data point. It is not the data. Your goal is not to be moved by a single powerful narrative, but to identify trends across hundreds of reviews. Don't focus on Jessica's 9-month ordeal. Instead, scan the 1-star reviews. Do you see a pattern? Are 20 other people mentioning slow claims process? Are 30 others complaining about a specific regional office? Do the words rude adjuster or lowball offer appear over and over again? So now you have a real signal. It's not just one person's bad luck. It's a potential systemic issue. Likewise, don't get swept away by Mark's story of the gift card and free upgrade. Scan the 5-star reviews. Is the praise consistently for their great mobile app? Their friendly customer service agents? Their competitive rates? If you see dozens of people praising the same specific believable feature, that's a reliable pattern. The specific details of Mark's story are an outlier. The general theme of good customer service might be the truth. You have to ignore the noise to find the music. The emotional, extreme stories, both good and bad, are the noise. The consistent, repeated themes across a large volume of boring reviews. That's the music. It's the real story of what you can likely expect. But spotting these patterns is only half the battle. Because sometimes the very language used in these reviews is a carefully constructed trap, designed to manipulate you without you even realizing it. The words themselves can be the biggest red flag of all. Think about it. Words are the tools we use to build reality. They can build trust, or they can build a prison for your judgment. In the world of online reviews, especially for something as critical as auto insurance, words are weapons. And the first weapon you need to learn to identify is a linguistic smokescreen I call vague praise. You've seen it 1,000 times. A 5-star review that simply says, great company, or amazing service. Or if they made the process so easy. It feels good, right? It's a quick, positive hit. But what does it actually tell you? Absolutely nothing. It's the junk food of information. It fills a space but offers zero nutritional value. Let's dissect this. Why is amazing service a red flag? Because a real, genuinely satisfied customer who is motivated to leave a review usually has a story. Something specific happened that moved them to act. Their experience wasn't just great. It was great because, and that because is everything. A real review sounds like this. I was in a fender bender on a Sunday afternoon. I used their mobile app to file the claim, and I had a call from an adjuster, a guy named Michael, within 30 minutes. He'd already scheduled a rental car for me to pick up Monday morning. The whole process was resolved in 10 days. See the difference? Names, timelines, specific actions. That review has weight. It has texture. It's a piece of data you can actually use. Now compare it again to amazing service. Which one sounds like a person and which one sounds like a bot, or someone being paid $5 to post a review from a template? Vague praise is the camouflage for inauthenticity. It's incredibly easy to fake. A company can buy 1,000 reviews that say, best insurance ever, in a heartbeat. But they can't easily fake 1,000 unique, detailed, and believable stories. So when you see a wall of 5-star reviews filled with these empty, positive-sounding words, don't get excited. Get suspicious. You're not looking at a chorus of happy customers. You're likely looking at a carefully painted mirage. It's a signal that the company might be investing more in manipulating its reputation than in earning it. But the language trap gets even more insidious. It doesn't just hide in vagueness, it thrives in emotional extremes. This is the second and far more dangerous linguistic weapon: the emotional Trojan horse. This comes in two flavors: the screaming 1-star rage review and the gushing 5-star worship review. Both are designed to do the same thing: hijack your logic by overwhelming it with emotion. Let's start with the rage. You scroll down and you hit it like a landmine. A review in all caps. This company is a criminal enterprise. They are thieves. They took my money and left me with nothing after my accident. A total nightmare. Do not, I repeat, do not use them. Your first reaction is a jolt of fear and anger. You think, wow, I have to stay away from these guys. The review did its job. It triggered your fight or flight response. But you have to force yourself to pause and ask the most important question. What actually happened? The review doesn't tell you. It doesn't mention what kind of coverage the person had. It doesn't say why the claim was denied. It doesn't provide a timeline of events. It's pure, uncut emotion. And while some people do have genuinely terrible experiences, reviews like this are often a massive red flag for several reasons. Sometimes they're written by people who were at fault in an accident and don't understand why their rates went up. Sometimes they didn't have the right coverage for their claim and are blaming the company for their own oversight. And in the darkest corners, they are sometimes planted by unscrupulous competitors to tank a rival's rating. A legitimate negative review is one of the most valuable things you can find. But it sounds different. It sounds like this: my policy included rental reimbursement up to $30 a day. After my accident, the approved body shop only had larger vehicles available for $45 a day. My insurance refused to cover the difference, even though it was their preferred shop, leaving me to pay $15 a day out of pocket for 2 weeks. I spent 3 hours on the phone being transferred between departments and never got a clear answer. That is a useful review. It gives you a specific, credible problem to consider. It points to a potential issue in their claims process or their preferred vendor network. The all-caps rage fest? That's not information. That's a tantrum. It's designed to scare you, not inform you. But the emotional trap swings both ways. The flip side is the gushing, overly perfect, too good to be true review. I literally owe my life to this insurance company. They are not a company, they are a family. The agent I spoke to was an angel sent from heaven. I am a customer for life and I will shout their name from the mountaintops. This feels good, but it should set off the same alarm bells as the rage review. Real life is rarely this cinematic. This kind of hyperbolic, over-the-top language often signals a fake. It could be an employee, a paid influencer, or just part of a fraudulent review campaign. It's designed to create an intense feeling of desire and trust, making you think, I want to be part of that family. I want an angel for an agent. It's an appeal to fantasy. Think of it like this. If you went on a first date and the other person said, I love you before the appetizers arrived, you wouldn't be flattered. You'd be looking for the exit. It's too much too fast. It's not authentic. The same applies here. Real satisfaction is calmer. It's grounded in details, not declarations of eternal love. So, how do you protect yourself from these linguistic traps? You have to become a detail detective. You have to train your brain to ignore the emotional noise, both positive and negative, and hunt for the signal. The signal is always in the specifics. When you read any review, ignore the star rating at first. Ignore the emotional adjectives like great, terrible, amazing, or nightmare. Instead, scan for nouns and verbs. Scan for facts. Does the review mention a specific timeline? A dollar amount? The name of an adjuster? The type of claim filed? The make and model of a car? The more concrete, verifiable details a review contains, the more likely it is to be real. A real person's story is messy and specific. A fake review is simple and generic. A detailed 1-star review that outlines a clear, logical problem with the company's claims process is infinitely more valuable than 100 5-star reviews that just say great service. That 1-star review gives you a real-world stress test of the company. The vague 5-star reviews give you nothing but a false sense of security. By learning to see past the emotional manipulation and the vague praise, you're no longer a passive target for marketers or manipulators. You become an active investigator, piecing together the truth from the only thing that actually matters, the details. But here's the most chilling part. What happens when the fakers get smarter? What happens when they start creating reviews that do have all the details? Reviews that tell a compelling, specific, and believable story, with balanced language and a credible timeline. Reviews that look, feel, and sound completely authentic, but are still a complete fabrication, designed for a single hidden purpose. This is the next level of deception. This is the red flag of the perfectly crafted lie, and it's the hardest one of all to spot. So how do they do it? How do they craft a lie so perfect it bypasses all our natural defenses? They don't just write a review, they tell a story. And our brains are hardwired from the time we were sitting around campfires to respond to stories. A good story creates an emotional connection. It builds empathy. It makes us feel what the storyteller wants us to feel. And in the world of online reviews, emotion is the ultimate Trojan horse. It gallops right past the gates of our logical mind, carrying an army of persuasion inside. This red flag isn't about a review that's fake. It's about a review that's a script. It's a carefully constructed narrative with a beginning, a middle, and an end, all designed to hit specific psychological triggers. Let's dissect the anatomy of this perfect, fabricated story. It almost always begins with a relatable, everyday setup. I was on my way to pick up my kids from soccer practice, or my husband was driving our family car on his morning commute, the same one he's done for 15 years. They start by establishing common ground. They want you to see yourself in their shoes. You're not just reading a review. You're vicariously living a moment from your own potential future. This is the foundation of the emotional connection. Next comes the inciting incident, the crisis. It's always dramatic, but crucially, it's also a common fear. Suddenly, a car ran a red light and T-boned me. Or, a hailstorm came out of nowhere, and the dents on my new truck looked like golf balls. Notice the details. They're specific enough to paint a picture, T-boned, golf balls, but vague enough to be universally applicable. They rarely say, I was at the intersection of Maple and 3rd Street, because that's a detail that could be disproven. Instead, it's just an intersection, a blank space you can fill in with any intersection in your own town. This is where the story pivots. The immediate aftermath is always filled with panic, confusion, and fear. My heart was pounding out of my chest. I had no idea what to do next. I was shaking. This isn't just for dramatic effect. This is a critical step. They are manufacturing a problem, the chaos and terror of an accident, so that the insurance company can ride in and be the perfect solution. The deeper the valley of despair they create, the higher the mountain of relief will feel when the hero arrives. And the hero always arrives. It's never a faceless call center. It's always a specific person. I finally called my agent, Jennifer. Or, I got a hold of a claims specialist named Mike. Giving the company representative a name is a masterstroke of this narrative technique. Jennifer isn't a corporation. She's a person. Mike isn't a department. He's a guide. This single detail transforms an anonymous bureaucratic process into a personal human interaction. And what does Jennifer or Mike do? They solve everything. Perfectly. Instantly. Miraculously. This is the core of the deception. The story of the resolution is completely devoid of friction. Real life is full of friction. A real, even positive claims experience might involve waiting on hold, filling out a form you don't understand, playing phone tag with an adjuster, or waiting a few weeks for a check. There are bumps in the road. But in the perfectly crafted lie, there are no bumps. The tow truck arrives in under 20 minutes. The rental car is waiting for me before I even got off the phone. The adjuster is the kindest, most empathetic person I've ever spoken to. And the final payout, it's more than I expected. And it arrives in just a few days. The entire process is described as seamless, effortless, a complete breeze. It's a fairy tale. And like any good fairy tale, it has a moral at the end. The review will conclude with a powerful, emotional statement. They didn't just fix my car. They restored my faith. Or, in the worst moment of my life, they were the best part. And the final call to action. I will be a customer for life, and you should be too. Let me read you an example. Imagine you're scrolling through reviews and you come across this. I'm writing this with tears in my eyes. Last Tuesday, my daughter, who just got her license 6 months ago, was driving home from her part-time job. A driver who was texting swerved into her lane, forcing her off the road and into a ditch. The call from her is the single worst sound I have ever heard. But after I knew she was okay, my second thought was, oh no, the insurance. I braced myself for a nightmare. I called our company, Patriot Shield Auto, and got a hold of a woman named Brenda. I was a blubbering mess, but Brenda was an angel of calm. She told me exactly what to do step by step. She had roadside assistance on the scene in 15 minutes. She had already arranged for a rental car for my daughter to use by the time the tow truck arrived. The adjuster, Tom, called us the very next morning. He spoke to my daughter with such kindness, reassuring her it wasn't her fault. He handled everything with the other driver's insurance. We didn't have to make a single other phone call. The car was a total loss, and honestly, I was expecting a lowball offer and a long fight. Tom called back 2 days later and offered us the full Kelley Blue Book value. No haggling. No hassle. The money was in our bank account the next day. Patriot Shield Auto turned a potential month-long trauma into a 3-day solution. They're not just an insurance company, they're family. I will shout their praises from the rooftops forever. Now, doesn't that sound compelling? It hits every single note. The relatable fear of a new driver, the dramatic crisis, the named heroes Brenda and Tom, the complete absence of friction, 15-minute tow, instant rental, next day payout, and the powerful emotional conclusion. It's a perfect story. And that's precisely what makes it so suspicious. So how do you spot these? How do you separate a genuine, heartfelt story from a masterful piece of fiction? First, look for the complete lack of negative details or friction. The perfect is the enemy of the real. A genuine 5-star review is more likely to sound like this. It took about 3 weeks to get everything settled, which felt a little long, but my agent Sarah was great about checking in, and I'm really happy with the final settlement. See the difference? There's a touch of reality. A small negative detail, the 3-week wait, actually makes the positive conclusion more believable. The perfectly crafted lie has no such nuance. It's a flawless victory. Second, be wary of the symphony of named heroes. When the reviewer names their agent and the claims adjuster, and the person at the body shop the insurance company recommended, and they're all described as angels and superstars, it starts to feel less like a real experience and more like the closing credits of a movie. Third, analyze the emotional arc. Does it feel like a Hollywood script? A sudden terrifying problem, a period of helpless despair, a heroic rescue, and a tearful happy ending. Real-life experiences, even positive ones, are emotionally messier. You can be grateful your claim was handled well, but still angry the accident ever happened. The perfectly crafted lie neatly ties up all emotional loose ends into a perfect bow of gratitude. Finally, and this is the most practical step, click on the reviewer's profile. What's their history? Is this the only review they've ever written? Or do they have a dozen reviews for different products and services? Each one telling another perfect, dramatic story about how a mattress saved their marriage or a protein powder changed their life. People who are this good at telling persuasive stories often do it for a living, or at the very least as a frequent hobby. A real person's review history is usually a messy mix of good, bad, and mediocre experiences. The professional storyteller's history is a library of fairy tales. This isn't about becoming a cynic who believes nothing. It's about becoming a critical thinker who understands that a story is the most powerful sales tool ever invented. And when the story sounds too good to be true, it's often because it was written, not lived. The goal of these reviews is to sell you the feeling of absolute security. But true security comes from digging past the beautiful fiction to find the messy, nuanced, and ultimately more reliable truth. And this leads us directly to our fifth and final red flag. This one is different. It's not about what someone else has written. It's about the traps we set for ourselves. It's the red flag that is powered by our own psychology, using our internal biases to make us see exactly what they want us to see. This fifth and final red flag is the most insidious of all, because it's a trap we help build ourselves. It's called the confirmation bias echo chamber. And it's the reason why two intelligent people can look at the same set of reviews for the same company and come to completely opposite conclusions. It's a flaw in our own thinking that the modern internet has learned to exploit with terrifying precision. Confirmation bias is our natural human tendency to search for, interpret, favor, and recall information in a way that confirms or supports our pre-existing beliefs. If you believe a certain political candidate is a genius, you'll click on articles that praise their policies and dismiss articles that criticize them as fake news. If you think a certain diet is the key to health, you'll devour success stories and ignore the scientific studies that debunk it. We all do it. Feels good to be right. The problem is, insurance marketers know this. They know what you already believe, and they use it to sell you a policy whether it's right for you or not. Let me tell you about a guy named David. David is a smart guy. He works in tech, he's in his late 20s, and he prides himself on being a savvy consumer. He sees the legacy insurance companies, the ones with mascots and jingles he grew up with, as dinosaurs. Slow, expensive, and out of touch. His core belief, his bias, is that the future is in new, disruptive, app-based companies. They must be cheaper, more efficient, and better for a digital native like him. So when his policy is up for renewal, he doesn't just search for car insurance quotes. No, that's what his parents would do. He searches for things like best tech-forward car insurance, top insurance apps 2024, and disruptor insurance company reviews. And right on cue, the internet delivers. The algorithm, which knows David better than he knows himself, springs the trap. His search results, his social media feeds, his YouTube recommendations, they all start to sing the same song. He's shown glowing articles from tech blogs titled, "How Lemonade and Root Are Changing the Insurance Game." He sees 5-star reviews on aggregator sites, almost all from people who sound just like him. They say things like, "Finally, an insurance company that gets it. The app is so slick." Or "Signed up in 2 minutes from my phone. My old insurer could never." David is thrilled. This is exactly what he expected. He feels validated. He sees a few 1-star reviews mixed in, but he quickly dismisses them. One review complains, "It's impossible to talk to a human being when you have a claim." David scoffs. "Okay, boomer," he thinks to himself. "You're probably confused by the chatbot. I can handle a chatbot." Another negative review says, "They use tracking data to jack up your rates for no reason." David rationalizes, "Well, I'm a good driver. That won't happen to me. It's probably just for bad drivers." He is actively, though unconsciously, filtering reality to match his beliefs. He's not looking for the best insurance company. He's looking for evidence that the company he already decided is the best, actually is the best. He finds a policy with a new trendy company that's $20 a month cheaper than his old one. He signs up through the app, feeling smug and intelligent. He's beaten the system. 6 months later, David is driving home from work when a driver runs a red light and T-bones his car. It's not a terrible accident, but his front end is crumpled, and the car is undrivable. He's shaken, but he thinks, "Okay, no problem. I've got this great modern insurance. I'll just open the app." And this is where his carefully constructed reality shatters. The slick app is great for paying your bill, but the claims section is a labyrinth. He's forced into a conversation with a clumsy chatbot that keeps asking him the same questions. After 20 minutes of frustration, he tries to find a phone number. It's buried 5 layers deep in the help section. When he finally calls, he's put into an automated system that directs him right back to the app. The 1-star reviews he dismissed now flash in his mind. Impossible to talk to a human. He spends the next 3 days in a state of rising panic, trying to get a straight answer. When he finally gets a real person on a crackly line, they're unhelpful. They need a police report, which he has. They need photos, which he sent. They need a statement, which he gave to the chatbot. Every step is a battle. The tow truck company is calling him about storage fees. He has no rental car. His modern, efficient insurance company has become an invisible, impenetrable wall of digital bureaucracy. It took David 54 days to get his claim settled. 54 days of stress, of paying for Ubers, of fighting with a company that was so easy to give money to, but impossible to get money from. The $20 a month he saved felt like a cruel joke. He had fallen headfirst into the confirmation bias trap. The internet didn't lie to him with fake reviews. It just told him a carefully curated half-truth, the half that he was already desperate to believe. So how do we, as consumers, avoid building our own traps? How do we break out of the echo chamber? It takes conscious effort. First, you have to identify your own bias. Before you even type a single word into a search bar, ask yourself, what do I believe to be true? Do I think big companies are more reliable but more expensive? Do I think small companies are more caring but riskier? Do I believe that the cheapest option is always the smartest? Be brutally honest with yourself about your preconceived notions. Writing them down can be incredibly powerful. Acknowledging the bias is the first step to disarming it. Second, and this is the most critical step, you must actively play the role of a red teamer or a devil's advocate against yourself. You have to intentionally seek out disconfirming evidence. If your gut tells you that Geico is the best, your very next search should be Geico claim problems, Geico complaints, or reasons to avoid Geico. This feels unnatural, feels wrong. It's like arguing with yourself, but you are not trying to prove yourself wrong. You are trying to see the whole elephant, not just the trunk or the tail. The goal is to find the legitimate weaknesses that the happy customers never experience and therefore never talk about. Third, diversify your information sources beyond algorithm-driven platforms. Don't just rely on Google or a single review site. Go to places where the conversation is more raw and less curated. Check the Better Business Bureau for formal complaint data. Dive into subreddits like r/insurance, where actual agents and frustrated customers have unfiltered conversations. Talk to a real, independent insurance agent whose job depends on understanding the nuances between companies. Talk to your friends, your parents, your coworkers, people outside of your demographic bubble who might have different experiences and perspectives. Finally, when you read reviews, learn to separate the signal from the noise. The noise is the emotion. I hate this company, a 1-star disaster. The signal is the specific factual reason behind that emotion. They denied my claim for a hail-damaged roof, citing a wear and tear exclusion in my policy that I wasn't aware of. The first part is just venting. The second part is a priceless piece of data. It tells you to check your own policy for that specific exclusion. Focus on patterns of facts. If you see 10 reviews that say the app is easy to use, that's a signal. If you see 20 reviews across multiple sites that say, my rates doubled after my first 6-month term for no reason, that's a massive blaring signal you can't afford to ignore, no matter how much you like their app or their commercials. Breaking free from our own biases isn't easy. It requires humility and a commitment to finding the truth, rather than just confirming what we already think. But when it comes to something as important as protecting your family and your finances, it's the only way to make a truly smart decision. It's the difference between buying a policy that feels good and buying one that actually works when you need it most. So let's talk about what that looks like in the real world. Imagine 2 drivers, both smart, both careful, both thinking they'd made the right choice. Let's call them David and Sarah. David went with QuickSave Auto, a company with a slick app and thousands of 5-star reviews. The reviews were glowing. So cheap. Easiest sign-up ever. Amazing customer service. David was sold. He was saving $70 a month compared to his old policy. He felt like he'd hacked the system. The reviews were almost universally positive, a sea of 5 stars. He didn't notice that most of them talked about the price and the app, but almost none of them mentioned what happened after a crash. He didn't look for the 3-star reviews because why would you look for mediocrity when perfection is right there? Sarah, on the other hand, was looking at a company called Steadfast Mutual. Their overall rating was a 3.9. Not amazing. She almost clicked away, but then she remembered to hunt for the truth, not the hype. She skipped the 5-star reviews which said great company, and she skipped the 1-star reviews which screamed, they're thieves. She went straight to the 3-star reviews, and there she found gold. One review said, the price is a little high and their app is clunky, but when my son got into his first accident they were incredible. Our agent, Maria, called us back within the hour. The claim process was slow, took about 4 weeks, which was frustrating, but they explained every step, they were fair with the valuation of the car, and they paid out exactly what the policy said they would. No tricks. So, not perfect, but they came through when it mattered. Another 3-star review said, getting a hold of someone can be a pain. You have to wait on hold, but once you get them, they actually listen. I had a complex claim involving a hit and run. It was a nightmare. They fought for me with the other party's non-responsive insurer. It wasn't fast, it wasn't easy, but they got it done. I'm giving 3 stars because of the hassle, but 5 stars for the integrity. Sarah chose Steadfast Mutual. She paid $40 a month more than David. Her friends thought she was crazy. Why are you paying more for a company with worse reviews? They asked. 6 months later, a distracted driver runs a red light and plows into David's driver's side door. He's okay, but his car is totaled. He opens his slick QuickSave app. He files the claim. He gets an automated response. And then silence. He calls. He's routed to a call center overseas. The person is polite but has no information. They promise a call back from an adjuster. The call never comes. Days turn into a week. He's paying for a rental car out of his own pocket. Finally, an adjuster emails him a lowball offer, less than half of what his car is worth, citing a clause buried on page 47 of his policy he'd never read. The 5-star amazing customer service he read about? It was for people asking how to download the app, not for people whose lives had just been turned upside down. David was now in a fight against the very company he was paying to protect him. His $70 a month savings was now costing him thousands in a rental car. A depreciated settlement. and a level of stress he couldn't quantify. 2 months after that, Sarah is on the highway when a truck ahead of them has a tire blowout, sending a massive piece of debris right into her windshield and front end. It's terrifying, but she's safe. She pulls over, heart pounding, and calls the number for Steadfast Mutual. She waits on hold for 10 minutes just like the review said. It's frustrating, but then a human picks up. Not a chatbot, not a script reader. Person. They take her information, confirm her coverage, and tell her an adjuster will call her within 24 hours. The adjuster calls in 3. He's local. He walks her through the process, tells her which body shops in her area are pre-approved, and has a rental car authorized and waiting for her by the end of the day. The process isn't perfect. The body shop finds more damage, leading to a delay. But her agent calls her to provide an update before she even has to ask. They were exactly what the 3-star review said they'd be. A little clunky, a little slow, but solid as a rock when it counted. Her higher premium bought her a shield. David's lower premium bought him an illusion. This is the entire game. You are not buying a price. You are not buying an app. You are buying a promise. A promise that when things go horribly wrong, a company will have your back. And the only way to know if that promise is real is to listen to the stories of the people who have already had to cash it in. So how do you do this? How do you put this into practice right now? It's simple. You become a claims detective. Here's your new 3-step process for reading any insurance review for any company from now on. Step 1. You immediately filter for the 3-star reviews. Ignore the extremes. The middle is where the nuanced truth resides. This is your new starting point. Think of yourself as a gold prospector, sifting through the river to find the nuggets of truth, not the shiny, worthless pyrite of the 1- and 5-star reviews. Step 2. Once you're in the 3-star reviews, you don't just read. You search. Use the find function on your browser, Control F on a PC, Command F on a Mac, and you search for the keywords that matter. Don't search for price or service. Search for claim. Search for accident. Search for adjuster. Search for payout. Search for totaled. Search for denied. This single trick will change everything. It cuts through 99% of the noise and takes you directly to the moments of truth. You're no longer reading about someone's experience signing up. You are reading about their experience surviving a catastrophe. And that is the only experience that truly matters. Step 3. After you've done your digital detective work, take your short list of companies and find a good independent insurance agent. Not a captive agent who only works for one company, but an independent agent who works with dozens. These people are professionals. They know which companies have a reputation for fighting their customers, and which ones have a reputation for fair, fast payouts. They hear the horror stories and the success stories all day long. Their livelihood depends on putting their clients with good companies. Tell them what you've found, tell them what's important to you, and let them be your final human filter. By following this process, you are fundamentally changing your relationship with insurance. You're moving from a passive price shopper to an active risk manager. You're no longer the target of marketing. You're the investigator. You're refusing to be swayed by a cheap price tag or a flashy app, and you're focusing on the one thing that can't be faked: a company's character under pressure. Because the day you need your auto insurance is, by definition, one of the worst days of your life. It's a day of chaos, fear, and uncertainty. In that moment, do you want a partner who promised you a deal, or a partner who promised you protection? The reviews, if you read them correctly, will give you the answer. They are the echoes of past promises, both kept and broken. Don't just look for a low premium. Look for a high-character company. Look for the stories of integrity. Find the reviews that say, "It wasn't perfect, but they did the right thing." That is the sign of an insurer worth your money and your trust. Because ultimately, the purpose of insurance isn't to save you a few dollars every month. It's to save you from financial ruin on that one day when everything goes wrong. It's the shield you hope you never have to use, but the one that absolutely has to work when you do. Choose your shield wisely.